Okay, so here we go. This is an interview with Veronica Vazeri, the founder of the School for Human Connection, and this is what we're going to be talking about today. So I welcome Veronica Vazeri to the space, and I just wanted to mention a few little points on how we met, and it was very kind of circumstantial, just online, and we were doing a challenge for presenting, and we were just commenting on each other's videos, and so we agreed to have a little chat, and then that went on to an interview. So we discovered that we had a lot in common, and I thought this project was worth a lot of attention. So here we are. I'm going to present to you Veronica Vazeri. Take it away. Little introduction about yourself, and then I'll ask you some questions about your project.
Thank you, Charlotte. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me to chat about my project in your community, because I know that you also working on a project which has so many synergies with mine, and which is why I'm excited about meeting you online out of all places, and also excited about witnessing your journey with this and sharing my journey with you, and hopefully collaborating in the future. So I'm excited about that start. And you asked me to talk a little bit about myself. I have a very diverse background. I consider myself a very international person. I've lived in 8 countries and I visited 99. So
wow, that's a lot. Oh, wow, 99 countries.
Yeah. And really... when people ask me where I'm from, it's always difficult to answer that question, because I was growing up and living in different locations all my life, and I've accumulated and absorbed so many different cultures within me. So I can't really claim any cultural identity or sense of belonging other than belonging to the world. And this is why the School of Human Connection, it means so much to me as well, because we really are one with the world, and we really are the most powerful when we are together and we are one, and when we are not divided.
Yeah, that's
by
really important
barriers
point.
Or geographies or cultures or languages.
Yeah, that I think is a really important point that is worth highlighting. That I think if we want to have a united world and cultures who work together, I think that's key. To have that kind of mentality about the globe as a globe, and not as that separate cultures. Is very interesting to know the separate cultures. I think, and the fact that you visited so many countries and experienced them is a fantastic growing experience for your own life. But now that you've had that and you've lived it, then you can share the value of that to other people, who maybe haven't had the opportunity to travel so much and experience it. And I really feel, I've traveled quite a bit myself in my life, and I know from my own experience how that changes somebody's perspective of the world. And I consider myself fortunate to have had that opportunity to travel, and before the lockdown happened. But yeah, just having that perspective on the world is, for me, very valuable to understand and have compassion for other cultures. So
exactly. I love the word that you've used, compassion, because it's exactly what it gives you. It gives you, as you know, I'm a relationship coach, and I'm very passionate about communication. And for me, that perspective, that privilege, as you said, to experience different cultures and different places, it allows you to have a very broad view of the humanity, as well as having a great level of compassion, because when you really learn about how people connect, how people relate to each other in different places, we are the same. We might speak different languages, we might have different backgrounds, we might have different perspective and life experiences, but when it comes to really how we relate to each other, it's universal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's human to human. Yeah, that's how I see it as well, and that's the core of why I started my project. But that's another story for another time. This is all about your school. So shall we move on to the questions? Do you have any other things that you wanted to add before we start talking about the school? Or?
Yeah, I want to add also how this idea, I guess, came about and what was my journey prior to that school. I was always in a field of relationships building. So I started my career as a career diplomat, which was all about building relationships between different countries and cultures, and building the bridges, and building the peace and negotiations, communicating between country to country. And I continue my career in the field of relationship in different organizations. And before I became full-time relationship coach, I was engaged as a learning and insights director for the largest network of CEOs and the most premier organization of the most prominent talented people. And I was responsible for learning insights for the MENA region, and that's where my passion started for the adult education and for training and for really acquiring the life skills to become the future generation of leaders that we need today, especially in the situation that we are in right now.
Oh, that's fascinating. You must have learned a lot from working in that kind of role.
Yeah.
So go on.
Go on. Yeah. So yeah, I've learned. I think the major learning for me from that role, other than discovering my own passion for adult learning, was to actually, when you interact with young CEOs who are extremely talented, gifted, and real leaders of the current world or business world, I have discovered that from someone who is so successful, one of the most important qualities that leaders have is understanding human nature. Because obviously all those CEOs, they were so different. They're in different industry, they do business differently, and I, after spending 5 years working with them really closely, and I was in an advisory capacity, so I was having a chance to really spend a lot of time conversing with them, and I realized that one thing they all have in common is a great understanding of who they are, and also a great understanding of human nature, because people do business with people, people have relationship with people, it's all about human connection in the end of the day. So that was my major learning from that role that I had within that organization.
Yeah, interesting observation. That's I think the key to a good teacher and a good leader is to really understand how to relate to the people that you're dealing with, and that's key. Like, I think to successful communities and strong communities is to really understand human nature and to be able to have the skills to read inside of a conversation what's going on. And that comes, one, from not being in the way, and that comes from knowing yourself and giving the space to the person or the people that you're relating to. But it's a learnable skill. It really takes one, introspection, and two, compassion to learn and really take on board who people are, and care to learn who they are. It takes observation. So yeah, it's a really important key to global relations, successful global relations. And there has to be a lot of honesty in there as well, I think. that has to be a part of like for it to be successful and pure, if you like, which must have been quite interesting for you to see in the positions. Those people were all CEOs, you were saying, which are really like high-ranking people, and just to see how, you know, the power thing, because it's a very responsible position to have, and you know, that it can be vulnerable to corruption, people who are in those positions. So I think that for me it's very important. Where am I going with this? Is if you're in a responsible position, to understand that responsibility and not to corrupt it for the people that you're in charge of.
And yes, of course, there's not the temptation, but there is, as with any positions of influence, there is always a dark side and the light side, so to speak. So of course, not everybody uses their positions responsibly. But what I loved about their organization is that it's obviously a peer network. So people join to learn, and people join to grow, and people join to make sure that not only they become the best leaders for their organizations and the best husbands and wives and parents, but also the best contributors to the community and humanity at large. There was a lot of projects that I was working on to facilitate that as well. So that was invaluable experience as well, to make sure that the influence that people at that position have is channeled in the direction that benefits to communities around them. The social element of that is very important.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the questions now.
Sure.
The School of Human Connection. So you said that it came out of that experience. The history. My first question is: tell us a brief history and background to who you are, where you're from, and what you do. That's done. Why did you come up with the project of the School for Human Connection, and what do you see that is missing within humanity to make a place for this project?
So my whole involvement in the field of human connection and relationships actually started with my own frustration of not having access or availability of a formal education, or not necessarily formal, but any type of education to equip us with basic relational literacy. So out of my own frustration, I started my own project 2.5 years ago to become an educator of the relational literacy and basic gender communications, and how people with their personal relationships. Because when I was much younger and making my own relational mistakes, I didn't have that. And I just thought, well, now that I've learned so much, and now that I've spent so many years both in the corporate world as well as through different academic as well as the training courses, acquiring all that knowledge, I just felt that because I already know so much, there would be just a crime not to start sharing it. So I went through that journey. It was painful. If I can make it easier for other people, that's my mission accomplished. And as I started to help people with their relationships, I've realized that I'm only touching at top of the iceberg, because I'm teaching people relationship skills. I'm teaching people communication skills and how to build their relationships and how to make a success out of it. But I'm not touching the much deeper side of it, or which is a relationship with self, which is impossible to. You can't form relationship with other people without really having a fantastic relationship with self. And I also realized that without that foundation, I can't really, well, I can, but it's just not going to be sustainable if I just fix something at the top without going to fix the foundation of it. And also, I realized that a relationship with self is not really possible to attain without having a great relationship with a higher power and with the spirituality or religion. I don't want to use the word because people have different connotations attached to these words, but there's a basic need which is deep within us, needs to be fulfilled, and that is how we relate to our creator, our higher power, and so on. So I realized that there were areas that are directly impacting relationships with others, and I'm only having the little tunnel vision where I'm helping people, and I realized that I need to create a holistic school, a one-stop shop where people come and we look at really enabling them to connect with themselves, to connect with other people, and to connect to the higher power, so they can have the most authentic, it's like creating a journey home. They come in home to themselves.
Yeah. So that's what your School of Human Connection will provide. They'll have the curriculum of all those different courses available to them to learn to connect to themselves and to learn to connect with each other. That's the essence of what you're saying, right? So all available in that one school. That's pretty phenomenal. That's great. So what do you think is a key to connecting to yourself? And you mentioned the need to connect to like the higher, like a spirit, if you like. And I think that for me, it comes a lot with the connection to nature, because when you have a connection to nature, you understand that we're all connected to nature, and we're part of that bigger sphere. And I think once you grasp that, the depth of that, it makes the connection to yourself easier to grasp. Because it brings it into a bigger realm, and then you can really start to feel. I don't know if that's well explained, but for me, that it comes once you start having a relationship with nature, then it kind of puts you into a context which is more spiritual, I think.
Yes, and nature is a great facilitator of that connection, because it allows you to realize where you fit in a let's say on a global scale or in a wider perspective. And nature definitely moves you to such extent, because nature has that power of really moving you and triggering those feelings within you that needs to be triggered in order for us to really reconnect with who we truly are. Without it, it facilitates stripping all the masks that we have been putting on to fit in with the societies, with the world, and nature allows us to actually release those masks. And it's one of the ways, of course, to become, or to go back to your true self and release or shed some of those acquired masks that we often wear.
And so what would some of the other ways be? You mentioned that's one of the ways. I think another way that I like is tapping into your creativity. That's another way. That's kind of what I specialize in. But what are the other ways that come to your mind that you think are ways to connect to yourself?
So connection to self, of course, as you rightly mentioned, it's connecting to nature, connecting to creativity. Creativity is going to be part of our curriculum because it's one of the most important avenues of both self-discovery and self-expression. We're also going to be teaching first of all, connecting with our bodies and listening to our gut. It's a mind-body connection, because I'm a huge believer that our body is smarter than we are, and if only we discover the power within, we could be much smarter people. We would be teaching intuition, again, for decision making, because again, I a firm believer that it's the most advanced decision making tool that we have also within us, if we can learn how to tap into. And we also going to be looking at connecting with our inner child, playfulness. We have a playfulness coach, and it's all about acquiring that inner freedom that we need to be truly connected to ourselves. Because what I'm hugely frustrated about with all the life skill trainings or courses out there is that they have really two directions. So one of them is telling you, you're doing something wrong, and this is how you should do things right, and let me fix it for you. And that to me is it's just so frustrating. Or the other direction is if somebody's not good at something, we all have strength and weaknesses. So people pick up on your weaknesses and say, well, you could be whatever you want to be. It's all about mindset. So let me take your weaknesses and make you work hard on your weaknesses. And obviously there's a lot of unrealistic expectations that are being generated by this type of claims and statements, and then people are going to start working on either not on their strength, not on their unique points that are their talents, or they are told that there was something wrong with them and it needs to be fixed. Whereas the philosophy of my school is to tell people that you don't have to become someone else. There's nothing wrong with you. You're already fantastic as you are. Let's get you back to let's help you to be more of who you are, to be more of yourself, and that is your key to success in life, and that is your key to relationships and connections. Let's discover your strength. Let bring them to the surface. Let us help you to reconnect with them and take those unique strengths that every one of us has and make them shine, instead of focusing on weaknesses and trying to become stronger in the areas that we're not. We're not. I'm never going to be a technology geek, and I accept that, and I'd rather focus on something that I'm good at than trying to figure out how to make Zoom work or something.
Totally.
Or I'm never going to be I became a very good I have a great attention to detail, but I'm never going to be good at the routine work, for example. So my strength it's in strategy, in vision. I have an iBird view. I have a foresight. I see where the trends, and if somebody tells me it's good to be pedantic, organized, routine, and so on, I could spend the rest of my life working on something that I always going to suck at, as opposed to really going in a direction where I have a huge advantage over, and I can develop that into something really truly special. So I do believe that playing at our strength, discovering our strength, and really just becoming more of who we are. Opposed to,
and discovering our unique qualities, and being proud of that, and having a confidence inside of that. I think that is also key, but it comes with actually discovering it. So the discovering would be tapping into your creativity, into your intuition, decision making, and into your playfulness. And I think as well, connecting with your body through movement. I think that's also extremely important.
It's huge.
So, and then after that, once those things have, you've been kind of going through those kinds of courses, that will bring you to more solid consciousness of who you are, and it's a great opportunity for people to have that available.
And then once they've discovered who they truly are and become more of themselves and gain confidence in their area, and then it becomes almost a second nature to form the relationship with others, because you are coming from a very authentic place. You are not wearing any masks. You shed any unnecessary, limited beliefs or any mask, and then the whole relationships with others, whether it's a romantic relationships or with people in the workplace, our family members, that is when it becomes absolutely beautiful, enjoyable, because you are connecting with others at a completely different levels. The choices that you make about people to let into your life is driven by completely different
motivations.
Yes, exactly. And that is something that I would like to achieve, because without that, fixing people's relationships, it just doesn't make a lot of sense without having that foundation.
Yeah, and like you said, just fixing something, it doesn't mean that they'll understand how it was fixed. So you're helping them to understand how to fix themselves. If you kind of not fix, it's not fix. It's
how
empowering. It's how to become who they are. And I guess you can say that that's fixing, but I think it's a more organic process, and it really brings people into a different, more present situation in any kind of relationship they'll have with other people. They won't be in such a judgmental state, because they'll have a much higher, they'll have more confidence and more courage to reach out to people, and it's going to come from it's going to make relationships a lot more simple as well, because you won't have all the baggage that you had before. And so if people can simplify, imagine how many or how less arguments would happen, and there'd be a lot more positivity in the world, I think.
It will become it will become completely, certain things like the arguments that you've mentioned, they become completely irrelevant, because when you are in that state of being who you are, you are so powerful, you are unstoppable. There's just nothing that can stop you, because you are coming from that place of true authenticity that makes you, it's like you're no longer concerned about having other people's high regard, because you are so connected with the source, you're connected with yourself, you're connected with it just becomes, as you said, it just simplifies things, and it becomes and it's an enjoyable process as well. Most important thing about our school, that it's going to be a very enjoyable process. It's a journey of self-discovery, and it's a journey home, because we all have that craving in anything that we do, is just to come home to a place. Well, that home is within us, and we're definitely going to be doing a lot of enjoyable discoveries on the way.
Yeah, that's definitely, that comes with it. And I was going to ask the next one, what is the School of Human Connection? I think you've already answered that question. What are the defining points of human connection for you? The defining points.
But for me, the defining points about human connections, I have also a larger perspective. Of course, we're going to be working with individuals, but I also have a social picture in mind as well, that when because we are wired to connect with each other, and people who experience social pain or pain of isolation, like a lot of us experiencing right now with the quarantine and the lockdown, the pain we feel experience social pain. It's a pain from isolation, or a pain from a heartbreak, or pain from a relationship breakdowns and so on. Social pain is actually just we feel it in our bodies just as strong as the physical pain. So for me, the School of Human Connection overall has the purpose and the vision is not just to help individual to have the most powerful relationships with self and others, but also to have a larger community purpose behind it as well, because we as communities, we could do so much about the world, about the earth, about different ways we approach, the way we approach leadership, the way we approach businesses, the way we approach our responsibility in how we think we have a control of running out our planet. And the School of Human Connection, by creating that new generation of leaders that we need, that have compassion for the world, for the humanity, that have a compassion for what is happening and what are the results of us occupying this earth, let's say. And by us creating the school, creating this new generation of leaders, we actually are creating the people who are going to be changing the humanity for the best and building the stronger communities. And we need strong communities in order to make a difference, and in order to
find solutions,
and also to feel happy, to live longer. People who live in stronger communities, they definitely have longevity, happiness, sense of well-being, sense of purpose. So I also see the vision for the human connection has become something even larger than just helping the on an individual basis people to find their true self and build beautiful relationships with others.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. Yeah, it goes far, eh? It goes far. The biggest obstacles. What are the biggest obstacles to human connection we face in society today, in your experience?
The biggest obstacle, I'm going to start with my absolute paid haters of social media.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even call it a love-hate relationship with social media. It's more towards, it's very little love and a lot of hate. I find that social media is supposed to be a tool that connects us, and there are a lot of success stories like you and I have connected to social media. Otherwise we wouldn't have maybe chance of meeting each other otherwise, unless we bumped into each other somewhere at the airport, or who knows, during backpacking somewhere in the world. But it's a fascinating tool that can connect a lot of people for a high purpose, for doing good things and so on. And it is meant to be a tool. And what social media has become, it actually, instead of being a tool, it became a purpose. And I don't like it when we're more concerned with our digital, digital relationships, or our digital connections that have now replaced the real life relationships and connections. And because of that, because of how social media encourages people to wear the masks, to become someone they are not, to lose the skills, the real skills that we need to communicate heart to heart, to stay compassionate. It just becomes so, it became almost fashionable to develop those, the narcissistic traits, just to show the world the certain unrealistic pictures of ourselves, or to, I can go on about social media forever. Just stop me. Stop me before.
So you see that as one of the obstacles?
I see it as one of the obstacles because we have we are losing the real skills, and we're losing the real connections by replacing our real lives with our lives on social media. And as I said, if we use it as a tool, it could be extremely successful strategy. Otherwise, currently it takes us away from what we could have be doing and achieving as a real humans with real human heart-to-heart connection. I think COVID-19 is going to contribute to awakening of that craving for a physical hug, physical touch, physical connection, the real let's just meet for coffee, or let's just meet and experience each other away from all this social media. So I think we are hopefully on the verge of that awakening, but as I said, so far it has been going in a completely wrong direction.
So I have, from what you were saying, I thought to myself, okay, so what characterizes a real human connection as opposed to a digital human connection? And I'm completely on your side with this, and it's partly what's driving my project, the portrait project as well, is really the value of a real human connection over a digital human connection. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm really happy that Zoom and Facebook, all these ways that we can communicate across the globe, I'm really happy that tool exists, as you say. And for me, it really is a tool. But that real value, what do you think is, why is it so important, that real connection? What does it have that social media connection or digital connection doesn't have?
What it has is that when we meet face to face, or when we are using the social connection as a tool, as opposed to as a replacement for a real social connection, it allows us to really connect heart to heart, and it allows us to form a meaningful relationship, and it allows us to show our true sides, whether it's our vulnerability, whether it's our who we, in a sense, it's who we truly are. And it requires a lot of courage. It's very, very courageous act to show who you are. And I think that this, because social media has the tendency to spread, like, every single, every wrong or every small movements, and it could just go viral. And of course, it's for those people who are still on the road to discovery and connecting with themselves, and they are building up that courage to really become who they truly are. Social media is not really conducive to that activation of the courage, or building up that strength that they need in order to really just, okay, so this is me, this is who I am, and this is, and so for me, it's a heart-to-heart connection, real to real person connection, and it's meaningful. It doesn't have to be necessarily deep, but it just has to be authentic. And
so what I'm getting from what you're saying is the fact that you can't edit real life, and on social media and over the digital domain you can, and that the sensitive journey of growing and being vulnerable, it is actually mandatory for expansion of yourself and connecting to yourself, to be vulnerable. Like you say, it comes with the territory. And yes, you do have to be vulnerable, and yes, that takes you gain courage from that vulnerability. Well, you have courage to go into it as well. But on social media, we do have a tendency to focus on and laugh at as well the mistakes, but the people who are doing the mistakes sometimes aren't ready to be going viral with that mistake. Like you say, it can be a double-edged sword. And also the editing is focusing sometimes just on the good sides. I find that's one thing that I think is not conducive to a healthy relationship with yourself, to look for validation of your good sides only, and the validation of your mistakes is equally important. And I call it a mistake, but it's not a mistake, because it's part of your growth and it's part of your learning. So it's not a mistake, really.
No,
it's actually a success.
It is a success, because you can't expand, and you can't grow without accepting both your as I said, like your best side and your shadow side as well. We really need to accept that darkness within us, and embrace it and learn, and that darkness, that shadow side is the place of growth. It's where we stemming from, and that's just what's gonna lift us and push us upwards. It's not our best side, so definitely social media is not gonna encourage you to expose that. Or if you do expose that, you're going to be very likely criticized so harshly that you're going to be discouraged for the rest of your life to ever face that side of yourself. So for sure.
Or bring that to other people, to show other people that side of yourself, which is the important thing that you need to be able to do, to build the courage and the confidence of self. So it's an interesting cycle, actually. Because the dark side of yourself is your permission to, and your springboard for becoming and understanding the good sides of yourself. So you'll never get rid of it. It's always going to be there, and it's just forming that relationship with how what you consider to be your dark side. Is forming that relationship is really important, to understand that it's always going to be there. And it's actually necessary that it's there. It can never just be. And once you learn maybe to conquer one dark trait or something that you're not so proud of, and you manage to change it or evolve it, there's always going to be another one that comes. And that's the beauty of the yin and yang. It's like there's always an opposite.
Duality. Yeah, there's always that. As you said, the yin and yang, the good and bad, or it's a beautiful, and it's definitely our fuel for growth if we channel it rightly and we embrace it. And
it's like being perfect with your imperfections. So that was one big obstacle. Did you have any other thoughts about other obstacles that get in the way of human connection, or a connection to self?
I think it's also a lot of external, not external, but I've mentioned social media as an external pressure to comply with all this social media etiquette, but also it's a lot of internal acquired beliefs, or the script that we live. So we, as humans, we obviously not growing up by ourselves like a Mowgli in a jungle. We obviously growing up in a unit, whether it's a family unit and then a larger unit, a school, university, or what. It's just community, and there's a lot of other people's beliefs or other people's expectations of us that we acquire, and because we maybe acquire them so early on from our childhood, we actually mistake them for ours. And a lot of people live what we call a life script, where it's somebody else's direction that you've been sort of set on and pushed, and you go in that direction, and not even realizing that it's not yours. And then people reach what we call the midlife crisis, or some sort of kind of milestone in the life cycle development, and during that milestone everything else just crashes, and they try to rediscover themselves. And it doesn't have to reach that point. It could start much earlier on. So you actually have a lot of productive years where you work towards your goal and your purpose. You already discovered what your calling is, as opposed to just go in a direction your parents sent you or your family sent you or your school. And that, I think, is major obstacle to human connection, because people are going on a trajectory that is not even theirs, and some
they're cycling and repeating the same thing. I completely agree with you, and I've kind of lived it a bit myself, and it's just, I think, the realization that you do have the power to change that trajectory. It's all in your hands. Each one of us has the power to, and the ability to change that direction and really make your life what you want it to be, and not be just a passenger of something that's been given to you. I mean, I think parents, they do the best job that they know how, right? And they come from a generation, and they're bringing up a human being into a new generation, which they may not understand. A lot of the time they don't understand it. And so it really is important that if, you include that inside of the education, people really are taught that they are the conductors of their life. They are the people that choose what their life wants to be. And it's your design, and you're the driver. So it's just, and that's a big role to take in a human being's life, like self-realization, realizing that you're responsible for your life, not for anyone else's. Unless you're a parent, then obviously you're responsible for your children, until they're ready to take their own responsibility. I think probably that goes on all their life, but you're responsible for your child forever.
I agree with that. The role of parenthood is just to be a guardian of your child until it's just to make sure that they're safe, they don't die prematurely, but really they're completely separate human beings with their own journey, with their own life path, and with their own discoveries. And the role of the parent is just to make sure that the child has as much freedom for self-discovery and for entering that journey, they're entering their own life path, and as opposed to parents guiding them too heavily and having that holding hand. And and that's why the School of Human Connection it's the first step, is just to make sure that we make sure that people shed all of those masks and beliefs and all these trajectories that are not even theirs, and they just start their own true real life path from that point onwards, and they can continue with that with a full power. And it's almost like, I want to call it the school of self-actualization, not the school of human connection, because that's what it leads to. In essence, it's just where the people are going to reach as a graduate of the school of human connection. Exactly that.
Yeah, it's true. It all starts, and it starts with that self-actualization. And I thought also that from that self-actualization, and when you're realizing that you're like the conductor of your life, and that you're responsible for your own life, I think it may, when I went and I was starting to understand all of that, I really developed a much deeper respect for my parents, and that I honored them more, because I knew that, and I understood that they did the best they could, and they were just passing on what they had learned, and that's what happens. And that's why I think in your school it's not just for individuals, it's for families, it's for anyone in a relationship to really understand that yes, you're responsible for your own life, but because everyone is, you have you develop a much more profound honor and respect for the people that you're in the family with, or in a relationship with, or in a team with, and I think that's a really important part. And I think maybe one of the by kind of products of social media is that that respect somehow isn't developed sometimes, because it's so focused on, it can be so focused on the external appearance and the validation. So I think that there's something in that to pay attention to as well.
Yeah, I always say that when people start to really connect to who they truly are, and when the people establish their own boundaries for their own lives, they become much more respectful of other people's boundaries and other people's true selves, and compassion and respect and honor for what other people have to offer. It's almost the relationship with others, it's almost like a byproduct of that. If you respect yourself, you honor who you truly are, you respect your own boundaries, and you have that ultimate, you cherish your own feelings and emotions, you automatically become very much respectful of other people's boundaries, because they just become just as, because the more you value yourself, the other people just become just as valuable. It's you don't even have to sort of make that link. It happens automatically. It's automatic. It's just, as you said, it becomes so simple to have relationships with others, because you actually know exactly what it takes to be who you are, and then you become so it's almost like you start, as I said, respect, it is not even the word, you just start worshiping that sense of another human being in their space, it's beyond the honor. I can't even find the right word for it, but it just becomes so, it's becomes kind of like a holy experience when we connect to other people, because it's just the ultimate compassion for others' journeys.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, it's the ultimate simplicity and its refinement, I think. And I always liked that phrase, which is, simplicity takes a whole lot of complexity to achieve. and it really is, like, going through that journey to get to simplicity, it takes a lot of work and a lot of process to get there, and it's never finished. But when you're able to recognize it and be in it, that simplicity it's very magical and very holy, and very spiritual, and it's, I think, that essence which, if we can nurture that and nurture getting to that state, and I think it's a state, because we go in and out of it, I think, and because of the exterior world, there's a lot of elements that can bring us away from it, like that, really quick, and it's just recognizing when we're there, and so that we get better and better at going there, because we understand what it looks like, and what it feels like more precisely.
And that feeling of when you reach, yes, we sort of catch it, and then we might lose it, and then we catch it again, and it's we know what it feels like. But what the School of Human Connection curriculum will do is just to make sure that people actually land there. They just land there, and they just ground themselves in that state, and that becomes, because once you get back to yourself, once you're home, it's just becomes so solid. You don't have to, you can't lose it. It's unshakable. Once you, it's what's gonna be happening.
That's great. So I'm going to go to the last question, because we've already been almost there for an hour now. I could carry on talking about this for a very long time, but what are the 3 main actions we need to take together as humanity to help create better and healthier human connections for the future? The 3 main actions that people could start thinking about and being conscious about to help them go towards a healthier and better.
And I think I already mentioned them, but I want to summarize them. Is that this three main action is really committing to start a relationship with self. And as I said, it takes a lot of courage. It's a journey, and as I said, that's what we're going to be helping people with. But it's the very first step is a commitment. I'm gonna commit to myself. I'm gonna truly now help myself to get in touch with my inner child, to rediscover all my talents, to rediscover what I am, my creativity, my intuition, my just claim me back. And that is commitment to for people to make as a first step to really establishing that human connection. And the second step is also start, as we make a commitment to ourselves, is start seeing the beauty in others, just seeing what a beautiful world we live in, and how beautiful people around us, or even in the wider scope, the community, and how respecting the differences, being compassionate for other people's talents, and helping other people grow in their own unique talents and the beautiful traits that they all have. And
to appreciate other people.
Yeah, to appreciate other people's connections and the relationships that we have with other people. And the third one is, of course, with the committing to the larger community, and committing to really connecting with a higher power. And for a higher power, for different people are different things. It could be a nature, it could be divine creator, God, but it's just something that unless it is fulfilled within us, we're going to be continue to trying to fill it with other things, to fill it with addictions, to fill it with social media, to fill it with consumerism, to fill it with you name it. It's just we're going to be, that's the void. Or filling it through even relationships. We place unfair expectations on other people to fill that void within us that only our connection with the higher power can fill. So it's important to commit to all these three things to really find the most powerful way of life. Of self-actualization.
And self-actualization, exactly. That's a really nice way to finish this conversation up, I think, or at least for this session, because I'm sure we're going to talk about it again.
We will continue it. I'd love to learn more about your project, so I'm going to be inviting you soon to share what you have planned. And definitely it's going to be a beginning of the journey, not the end.
No, definitely not. I'm really excited to collaborate with you on your project, and it really is in line with my project and other things that I've had lined up for my life. So yeah, thank you so much. And one just last thing, you're building a website for this School of Human Connection. Is there any place where people can find out more about it or contact you about it? How would you like to be to share that with the world at the moment? Because I know it's not completely finished.
Yeah, so it's in the process of being launched. The people can start looking at where we are at this stage. It's the website is theschoolofhumanconnection.com, and we're going to be adding more information about the faculty. We're going to be adding more information about the programs and courses. So as I said, it hasn't been launched yet, but it's already, the website is already live, and some information is already there for those of you who are curious and want to see where we start and how we grow. They definitely can start looking. And if any of the people who are watching this, and if they have if they're expert in the field of intuition, or if they're expert in for example in psychology, in attachment style, the way we bond, if they think that they can, or if they think they have an expertise to contribute to the school, please do get in touch with me, because I'm always looking for talent, for experts in the field. And I already have pretty solid faculty in place, but I always on the lookout for people who can add to all the fields that I've described during our chat today.
Great. So I'll put that website link on the post, and also your email. Is that the best way that they can contact you? Where would you like them to contact you?
They can contact me through my current page. So we are on Facebook, so it's facebook.com/relationship-schools. That's what I'm currently doing, so they can get in touch, and also through the website.
Okay, so I'll put those 2 links down in the post. That's fantastic. Okay, well, I really thank you so much, Veronica. That was an amazing interview. I feel thoroughly excited about this whole journey that we're going to go on, and to discover more about this whole process of self-actualization and human connection. I feel it's very passionate to me, that whole subject. So thank you very much. And I will be posting this very shortly to all over Facebook. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to changing the world together.
That's it, exactly. Okay, great.
Bye. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.